we're going to talk about a simple sounding question that actually can reveal a lot about the other person. And something I really want to encourage you guys to consider as we go through this live lesson is think about all the situations where you can use this particular question. Think about all the situations where you can really start evolving this question so that it's something that you can use both in the workplace or at school or with friends or when you're going on a date. This is how powerful this very simple question is. The question that we're looking at today is, what are you currently blank, right? What are you currently doing? What are you currently working on? What are you currently reading? What are you currently watching on YouTube? What are you currently watching for fun? What are you currently listening to? This question, what are you currently, sounds simple, but it's actually a really, really interesting question that will help you learn a lot about the person that you're talking to. So this is something I really want you guys to think about as we go through this live lesson. So like I said, this question, what are you currently doing, right? That's kind of a basic question, but people sometimes ask that. What are you currently doing? What are you currently doing for fun? What are you currently doing for work? It's a simple question to ask what's happening right now. So if you're catching up with somebody, you might want to ask what they're currently doing. The better answer that I would encourage you to do in the workplace is to say, what are you currently working on? And I think this is actually one of my top questions for interacting with your coworkers and colleagues. What are you currently working on? This invites the other person to share the projects that are taking up a lot of their time, to talk about the things that they're most interested in working on right now, to share something about what they're working on. You have to be careful with your intonation in this question, because if you're in the workplace and you say, what are you currently working on? That kind of tone is a little bit negative, but if you're inviting the other person to share, you can say, what are you currently working on? I'd love to hear about your projects. It's nice to follow it up with a little more detail so the person knows you're genuinely interested in hearing their answer to the question. So for those of you watching, you may think about, what are you currently working on at school or at work? This is when somebody says, what are you currently working on? Pay attention to this working on. They're actually asking you about a specific project or a specific client or a specific task. So you guys know from your life experience that sometimes you're working on different things, right? So think about, what are you currently working on? What are you currently focusing your attention on? That's what the question, what are you currently working on, means in a workplace situation or in an academic situation. If you're a student, you're in graduate school, or you're doing your bachelor's program, what are you currently working on? I'm currently working on my master's thesis. I'm currently working on the research for my next experiment. I'm currently working on finishing up the end of the school year. If you're a teacher or professor, I'm currently putting together grades from the summer session. So think about it. This is somebody asking you specifically what's happening for you right now. And this reminds me of the question that we talked about a little bit earlier, what's keeping you busy these days? It's a similar question, but what are you currently working on right now? So that's how you would use that question in the more professional or academic setting. But you might be asking a friend, hey, like, what's new with you? I haven't seen you in a long time. What are you currently doing? What are you currently doing with your time? And you might ask about their hobbies or their interests. One of the reasons I wanted to talk about this question is I was listening to a podcast, like over a year ago, and it was a really interesting podcast by they were talking about when you are trying to go on a date with somebody, or trying to meet a potential romantic partner. And if you really like to read like I do, you should ask the person, what are you currently reading? And if the person says, oh, I hate books, well, then that's probably not a really good match for you. So if you're making small talk with someone, which is what a lot of these questions are about, you can learn a lot about them if you say, what are you currently reading, right? So if you say so you guys can answer in the comments, what are you currently reading? And if you aren't reading anything because you don't like books, well, maybe, when you might not like my lessons when I talk about literature or more advanced vocabulary, right? Not everybody is a big reader. They might be reading the newspaper or a lot of blogs online. They may be reading, comic books. It doesn't matter, but it does actually reveal a lot about the person. So I hope you can see just from that simple question, what are you currently reading, just how much this question will help you understand how much you have in common with the other person. It may seem like a simple question, but the answer is actually really complex. And this is also something that people ask in job interviews, because they might say, what are you currently reading in order to enrich your knowledge of this particular field? They actually do ask questions like this in order to find out how interested you are in your field, in advancing yourself, how motivated you are to keep learning. So by using the word currently, it talks about right now, what the person needs to know about right now. If you love music, you may ask something like, what are you currently listening to, right? You may be currently listening to a certain type of music. I go through phases where I listen to a lot of pop music, and then I may listen to a lot of more, like electronic music, because I really want something that doesn't have as many words. Sometimes I listen to a lot of folk artists or singer-songwriters. So when somebody asks you, what are you currently listening to? If somebody is really into music and music is really important to them, your answer is going to help them understand whether or not you have a connection about music. Same thing, what are you currently watching on television? What are you currently watching on Netflix? What are you currently watching for movies? You can be a little more specific, and you're going to learn about that person's interests. If someone asks me, what are you currently watching on TV? I don't watch TV. So if it's really important to them, they have somebody who watches Game of Thrones with them. I haven't seen Game of Thrones. Is that bad to admit? I've never even seen it. I just know it exists, and that's why I mention it in a lot of my examples, because I know it's really important for people. But I actually haven't seen it. There's a lot of reasons why I don't watch TV. But it's interesting. Like, you realize that you learn a lot about the person by asking, what are you currently watching on TV? You might learn a lot about their personal interests. Maybe they watch movies on TV or on Netflix, or they watch documentaries, or they watch particular series, or they're catching up on watching, the series Friends from 10, 15, 20 years ago, and they're watching all of the old series. So I want you to think about it and answer any of these questions that you feel like in the comments. What are you currently doing? Oh, I love this. Okay, I can't wait to see what you guys are commenting on. Okay, so I'll come back to the chat in a moment. So we talked about, what are you currently working on? What are you currently doing for fun or in your free time? What are you currently reading, if you like reading? What are you currently watching? What are you currently listening to? So let's take a little pause right now, and I'm going to check in with you guys in the chat. And I want you to think of any other questions you may be able to ask with, what are you currently? What are you currently? What are you currently doing? But just understand that this question seems simple, but it's actually a question that you want to have a good answer to. Like I mentioned earlier, one of the funny examples that I heard on this podcast a year ago, with podcasts, right? What are you listening to? Some people, what podcasts are you currently listening to? You can be more specific with that. What podcasts are you currently listening to? Because what are you currently listening to? People would probably answer music, but what podcasts are you currently listening to? What videos are you currently watching? Which YouTube channel are you currently watching? So that's something to keep in mind. But going back to my point, the podcast that I watched the podcast that I listened to last year, when the guy said, if you really like reading and you ask somebody, what are you currently reading? And their answer is, oh, I hate books, or something like that, or nothing. It tells you a lot about the person. So this is why when we go through these questions, I want you to both think about your question and your answer, because I keep encouraging you through these videos and through my small talk series to help you understand how to ask questions, because that keeps the other person talking. And then when they're talking, they think you're a great conversationalist because they're talking. It's a secret. And but the thing is, when you answer, you want to have a good answer. You want to be able to say something that's going to interest and engage the other person in having a conversation with you. So think about your answer. It's not as simple as, oh, I'm watching Game of Thrones. You might want to give a little more detail. Like, I'm currently watching Game of Thrones because it's one of the best TV series on television right now, or something like that. Give some sort of a stronger answer. A lot of times a strong answer gives just enough details to keep the conversation going, because that's kind of the question, what are you currently watching, is kind of a yes-no question. Not a yes-no question. It's kind of a closed question. There's a simple answer. But when you respond, you want to give more details. You want to encourage the other person to share stuff with you, to be able to connect with you in some way over your answer to this question, or at least find you interesting or find the conversation interesting. We also talk about swapping stories or trading ideas. So you don't have to have the same exact feelings about books or the same exact feelings about TV shows or movies, but you want to leave something in the conversation that's open to keep the conversation going. So I'm just going to reiterate to give you guys in the chat a chance to answer this question. What are you currently is such a great question for engaging the other person in something that's interesting to them. And we've talked about in previous videos, like how do you like to start your day and what's keeping you busy these days? And what did we talk about last week? Or how did you get into? This would kind of be a question. Actually, that's a good thing to mention. So what are you currently doing or what's keeping you busy these days are going to be questions that you're going to kind of get information from the other person. And then you want to be prepared to keep asking more questions. Last week's video was how'd you get into? So if somebody says, I'm currently watching Game of Thrones, my favorite example, and you say, oh, how'd you get into Game of Thrones? This is going to keep the conversation going. So I want you to see how these questions work together. Same thing, like we said, like what, if you're at a concert and someone asks, oh, what brings you here? Oh, I really love rock music, or I really love alternative music, or I really love this particular singer, and you say, oh, cool. What else are you currently listening to? Because if you're at a concert and someone mentions that they like a particular artist or a style of music, then you can ask them, oh, what else are you listening to? Like, what else means what other things are you currently listening to? And that's great. Something like here, like I said, you're here watching my live video, hopefully, or watching the replay, and I can say, oh, okay, thank you for joining me. What brings you here? And what else are you currently watching? And you're able to keep the conversation going, talking about that specific topic. So I want to invite you to remember that you can finish what are you currently with just about any sort of verb, right? What are you currently doing for a workout, right? What sport are you currently playing? You can kind of adapt the question. What diet are you currently following if you're into a particular special type of diet, like raw vegan diets, or I don't know, there's all kinds of crazy things people do these days. What are you currently loving about the summer, right? You can ask something more engaging like that. What are you currently, a lot of times people do ask questions like that. Like, what are you currently loving? That's not actually, doesn't sound grammatically correct, but it actually is common in casual speech. What are you currently loving? And people will say, I'm currently loving my new, for example, Horacio mentioned he's practicing drawing my new pencils. I got these really fancy pencils or pens or charcoal, and I'm currently loving it, right? I can say things like, I'm currently loving my new software on my computer. I don't know. I was looking to see I could say, I'm currently loving my new Boston mug, right? For my tea, because Boston's my city. And so I'm currently loving my Boston mug. So you can mention all kinds of different things. That's why this is such a flexible question. And I really want to encourage you to consider flexible questions like these that you can use in any circumstances in order to continue to keep the conversation going. So today we talked about what are you currently blank, right? So what are you currently doing? What are you currently spending your time on? What are you currently working on? Talking about specific projects. What are you currently following on YouTube? What are you currently listening to? Which podcasts are you currently listening to be more specific? What are you currently watching? What are you currently doing? What are you currently sharing? What are you currently learning? So there's all kinds of different things you can ask and also answer. Remember, if you give an answer to this question, if you just say something like, what are you currently listening to? And you name a specific band, you actually want to give more details. You want to give more information in order to help the other person really be able to continue the conversation with you. So you want to answer and then maybe give a little more details that keep the conversation open. So this is something I really encourage you guys to do, is to think about how you're going to answer these type of questions and how you can give more information. Like I said, sometimes this question is really good in casual situations when you're making small talk, but if you're in a professional situation, what are you currently working on? You want to make sure if you're asking it to a coworker, if you're asking your coworker this question, that you use good intonation, use happy intonation, and you try to keep the conversation going from there to show them that you're really interested in them. If somebody's asking you in a job interview, what are you currently researching? What are you currently studying? What are you currently reading to educate yourself? You want to have a good answer, because if you don't have an answer, they're going to not see that interest in keeping your knowledge high and being able to just keep going with that. So that's what I really, really want to encourage you guys to do, is to keep answering the question with as much detail as possible to keep the conversation going, to keep the conversation evolving. Hope you understand how important this simple but very effective question is in order to have conversations in English. And I encourage you to go back and watch the earlier episodes of this series in order to get other questions that you can use together. Combined together, all of these 10 videos from this series will really help you be more prepared to have better casual conversations, but also participate in professional conversations as well. They're useful in both settings. It just really depends on the context, as I often talk about. Something I want to remind you guys is that I have a guide to making more interesting small talk. There are 17 questions and answers and ways to kind of engage the question a little more. In this guide, I give you suggestions on how to kind of answer the question or ask the question and give more details, because a lot of times when you ask questions without extra details, or you ask and answer questions, it feels like a job interview or even an interrogation. So you want to make sure you're a little more conversational. So that guide will definitely help you. You can download it at englishwithkim.com/smalltalkguide, and then you can join my email community and participate with me there. You can also sign up for the email reminders of these live lessons. The link will be below the video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with a friend. And if you have any questions for other topics you'd like me to talk about in a future video, be sure to leave a comment. Thank you guys so much for joining. Once again, I'm Kim from EnglishWithKim.com. I'm your guide to the essential conversation skills you need to sound more natural in English. Have a good one. Have a good day. Goodbye.